Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to the information session of YST's new master's program, Master of Music Leadership. To those who entered the Zoom meeting earlier, we hope you enjoyed a selection of music produced by our alumni, Richie and his group. I am Rachel Ho, part of the MSL academic team, and I'll be hosting tonight's session. We are delighted to have you join us today, and we hope that through this session, we can welcome you to navigate your professional journey with us to becoming a music leader and a trailblazer in the local and international art scenes. We would now like to present a video which summarizes what this program seeks to offer.
The musical landscape is rapidly evolving, so are your vision, your aspirations, and the skills you will need to bring them to life. The Yongsu Conservatory of Music's Master of Music Leadership program is designed to support musicians who want to grow their capabilities and be leaders of change in the music ecosystem. With an emphasis on entrepreneurship and innovation, the MSL program develops graduates to keep pace with rapid technological development, digitalization, and the increasing need for diverse skills and collaboration. Our flexible curriculum and supportive community will help you in forging your unique artistic trajectory. And our program will equip you with the skills to navigate your ongoing professional journey more effectively and confidently. Our industry never stops moving and growing, neither should your learning and growth. Come take your next step as a music leader with us.
Yes, indeed, the musical landscape has been rapidly changing. We have experienced disruptions, had to shift everything to online lessons, find new ways to present our performances, our creations, and connect with our students. So was this change brought about by the pandemic or accelerated by the pandemic? And what are the roles and attributes of a 21st century musician in our society today? Well, we invited a panel of leaders in the industry and held a dialogue to discuss these issues. Our four panelists, Mr. Loh Jiahua, Managing Director of Metropolitan Festival Orchestra and YST's newest board member, Ms. Crystal Horn, Senior Producer at Esplanade Theatres on the Bay in Singapore, Mrs. Lee Yan Si, Master Teacher of Singapore Teachers Academy for the Arts, Ministry of Education, and Associate Professor Chancellor Vice Dean at Yongsu Conservatory of Music. All four leaders engaged in a very insightful conversation regarding these topics, of which we would like to share with you their responses in the following video.
What is common when we think about it as in terms of the future of music is that it has to continually evolve to serve the needs of the community and humanity at large. And this can take many different forms. Different people, different musicians occupying different parts of the sector will find different solutions.
I had to work with some of these musicians to help them still get their music out. So from what I observed, it was really employing a whole set of creativity and innovation from them to still continue doing what they love. That was already the mark of, the future of what music is going to look like. Run by performers and innovators.
Yeah, I think this a mindset of innovation, of entrepreneurial thinking is obviously very important. But at the same time, right? And it's then how do we make sure that what we innovate on is meaningful and resonate with the wider community? So I think it's very important then to be able, it's like that's all we have mentioned, is to actually reach out and then to connect people who are already doing something that is a little different from yours or even totally different industry altogether and seek to understand. Because then we must then guard against then innovation for innovation's sake.
Interesting, the way the musician has to think of how we could engage the community taps on his or her critical and inventive thinking as well. And that ties into what Crystal said, being an innovator, isn't it? Because you mentioned earlier on that word innovator, and I was thinking, being an innovator also is more than just collaborator. It's actually thinking out of the box and also reflecting what is happening so that they can then move forward.
But I think, more sparks start to go off when they decide that they decide to step out of that and say, I want to do my own project because I believe in this community, I believe in this cause. That takes a lot of guts, to be honest, to say I'm going to step out by myself. But it is because they want to collaborate, maybe with other musicians or other organizations or communities. So I think in order to reach a much larger audience, I think collaborating with organizations that you would not normally have engaged with before would help their reach go much wider.
I just wanted to put it in this perspective because just like everyone will find their own solution. Yeah, right?
I think that's exactly what you say. Everybody to find its own meaning, right? Its own meaning of where the direction they want to take. So it goes very much to that thing that we call an outcome called themselves being a self-directed. Where does that self-directed, whether it's a learner or a contributor? So it goes back very much in them being self-directed. And I think it's something that even whether as a student or whether as teachers, is something that we encourage them to grow.
It's not, I think, possible anymore that any one person is the one expert on everything. And therefore, in order to innovate, we are likely to be doing things that have never been done before. So we have to tap on collective expertise and experience of everyone. So I think the future musician will need to be able to spot this type of opportunities and become the facilitator for these things to happen.
With this generation, all musicians, they understand that music, any musician or educator, they cannot be just a single discipline mindset.
And so I guess the musician will have to find ways of identifying what are the skills that they need and then find a place where they can get them. And that's not necessarily in an institutional context. Because, in a way, you don't really know what are the skills you need for a project until you embark on the project. And so in the olden days, we prepare people by giving them all these skill sets that we think they will need for particular projects. However, if the projects are going to be innovative, it's highly unlikely that we are able to predict more than what some of the basic skills are. And therein, I think, lies the conundrum. How do we solve this problem?
Thank you very much to our panelists for sharing their thoughts. The future certainly looks bright, and through our program, we hope to address these issues and empower future leaders of the music industry to lead this change. And with this, I would like to pass the time to my colleague Kai Wen, who is also part of the MSL academic team. Kai Wen has played a very important role since the start of YST's continuing education and training programs in coordinating and designing it. Kai Wen, please.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. It's really wonderful to see so many of you here tonight. I'm Kai Wen, and it is my privilege and honor to share with you a little on YST's journey in continuing education and training programs, in short, CET, and some of the thinking behind the development of our Master of Music Leadership. So in January this year, as some of you may have known, we were really excited to have welcomed our first batch of Master of Music Leadership learners after a soft launch for local intake. This is the latest addition to YST's new CET program, as marked in green circles. And amidst the pandemic in the past 2 years, we have also initiated various new CET courses under Skills Future Singapore's movement, in short, SSG, to provide opportunities and support for lifelong learning. We have come a long way, and looking back at our CET history even before the Skills Future movement, we launched both our Master of Music and also the continuing professional education in musical leadership program back in 2015. The Master of Music program still continues today, which my colleague Rachel will be sharing a little bit more later, whereas the older CPE program has since then evolved into our current suite of CET offerings. So to some of you here who may have been with us in our CET journey, we would like to say a big thank you for the encouraging support and valuable feedback, which were key contributors to the conceptualization of our Master of Music Leadership today. Here's a picture of Singapore's map with all our current YST programs represented in the form of a train network. We are really excited that with this inaugural international launch, we now have Changi Airport connected to our new masters, and we look forward to welcoming you. In case you're wondering about this small island below, this is actually Sentosa Island, where locals associate it with vacation, beach, and fun. So we have put our non-credit bearing offerings here, which are a series of bite-sized short courses to suit music professionals of different needs. Okay, but coming back to Master of Music Leadership. So why and how did we conceptualize this new program? So while we were designing it, we engaged in several dialogues with stakeholders on what is our current need in the music industry, much like the panel discussion video that you have seen just now. We also identified some key global trends that included rapid digitalization, rise of gig economy, increasing importance in transferable skills development, and interdisciplinary thinking and collaborations. So in order to bridge the needs of the music industry and the broader global trends, we identified that our CET trajectories needed to facilitate a learning environment that addresses more personalized needs in the following ways. So firstly, to create opportunity in honing and update of skills that's necessary to keep up with the rapid digitalization and evolving landscapes. In our new masters, it is designed to be customizable for all music backgrounds, including emerging new areas such as music collaboration and production, music and society, and audio arts and sciences. Secondly, to develop artistic leaders who can enhance best practices and be impactful to the greater community. This is also the reason why our new MSL emphasizes on music leadership specifically. Thirdly, to encourage lifelong learning in music. Our new Master of Music Leadership does not have an upper age limit, and there is flexibility designed within the program to cater to different profession needs at your different stages of career. Fourthly, is to recognize and cater to diverse artistic identities and individual needs. All our courses have a small class size with individual mentorships, which will allow for more individual attention as well. Lastly, of course, to have a work-study friendly model that suits different careers. This is encouraged in our new masters through an option to complete studies between 2 to 8 semesters or 1 to 4 years. So in the first video, and by now we have been frequently referring to the terms music leadership or music leader. So what or who is actually a music leader? For our Mandarin speakers, you may also refer to the chat for more specific explanation on our translation of music leader. So let me just type in the chat now. Yeah. So in our definition, a music leader is someone who is willing to listen first. Listening is also our school's philosophy as a focal point that connects our past, present, and future. Music leaders are also ones who are interested in enabling sustainable careers and sees value in the collective, not just the individual. With the current complex and ever-changing global context, they have to be nimble and creative in order to bridge the arts and the community, and eventually leading new artistic directions in the broader artistic environment. So now that we have shared a bit about our philosophy behind the Master of Music Leadership, I will now let Rachel explain the details of the program.
Thank you very much, Kaiwan. So the MSL design takes inspiration from various leadership and arts management programs internationally and is very distinctive because of the cross between leadership concepts and musical focus areas. So a bridge between the traditional music masters programs and the more general arts management programs. So this 40 modular credit master structure allows you to chart your own learning journeys, both in self-directed learning and within the compulsory framework, and through choosing your electives which best suit your artistic practices. So to explain a bit more on what a modular credit means, it refers to the amount of time expected of a typical student managing their workload. So the modules are categorized into core, graduate certificate in music perspectives and practices, and electives under their respective modular credits as shown on the screen. So these modules within the core consist of compulsory modules in leadership, research, and capstone, as well as free choice modules of various professional practices. So they are very inherently flexible in their nature, as Kaiwan mentioned earlier, given the small instructor-student ratio and the involvement of specific supervisors or mentors as appropriate to your interests. So I would now like to invite Prof. Chan to speak more about the Leadership in Musical Context module and to share a few words. Prof. Chan, please.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. And it's great to see all of you who've joined us for this info session. So maybe I can give you a little bit of information on one of the core modules of this program called Leadership in Musical Context. Well, we think that established musicians who are advancing their careers often begin to assume leadership positions, and therefore they have to manage teams of people. And these people may or may not have musical backgrounds, although they may have administrative backgrounds. So this module aims to provide musicians with a solid understanding of some leadership strategies, building out of their transferable musical skills so that they can navigate these environments effectively as a leader. And we have found that whilst it is not impossible to advance an administrator to really understand about artistic and musical environments, it is equally also possible to equip musicians with skills to navigate leadership in a context where they lead either small, medium, or large groups of people. So this is why we've conceived this module for the Masters of Music Leadership program. We feel that it plugs a gap in the training of musicians to equip them with skill sets to lead teams. Since many musical skills are collaborative in nature, musicians can contextualize these skill sets and adapt them to also non-musical contexts. And in a wider collaborative and interdisciplinary context, these are likely to be extremely helpful to their developing the artistic identity of their work, and as well as their musical credibility. These skills, we believe, will help music leaders advance their careers in areas such as, for instance, directing or producing, creating, advocating, or potentially even either on the ground or at boardrooms or beyond. So that's a little bit of sharing about the thinking behind one of these core modules of this program, and this core module is called Leadership in Musical Contexts. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you very much, Prof. Chan. So now I would also like to invite Francis and Abigail to share more about their research modules. So Francis and Abigail, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here at this info session. It's really wonderful to see so many people. My name is Francis Lee, and together with Abigail Sin, I will be leading this Research Practices in Music module, which is another of the core modules. So often when we think about research, the image that comes to mind is of someone deep in the library, surrounded by books, reading all of these books, and then somehow writing their own books or articles. But this is really just only one form of research, particularly when it comes to a field that is as wide and varied as music. So research is fundamentally about finding out new things and gaining new knowledge, which means that there are at least as many different kinds of research as there are different kinds of knowledge. So whether you're an educator, an administrator, a performer, a composer, or involved in music in any other way, you are already constantly trying out new things and ways to make things better. And in many ways, research is about framing this as an investigation and applying critical thinking skills and processes to create a more formal approach and output, and then take it further. Over to you, Abigail.
Hello, everyone. So what we aim to do in this research practices module is to present you with skills, tools, and approaches that you will use to develop in your own projects and professional practice. We will be engaging with some of the material on artistic research from the Orpheus Institute in Belgium, thinking about how to come up with different kinds of research projects and research outputs. We will also look at different areas and approaches within music, such as music education and music cognition, drawing the expertise of specialists in these areas. This module will prepare you for the capstone project at the end of the master's program, where you will apply these research skills and perspectives to your own professional and artistic practices. So this is just a brief introduction to what the class will be like, and we hope to see you there. Back to you, Rachel.
Thank you very much, Francis and Abigail. So next, we have our graduate level electives offered as part of the Graduate Certificate in Music Perspectives and Practices. So modules in this graduate certificate covers interdisciplinary approaches, contextual studies, analysis, and community engagement. So as Kaiwan has also mentioned earlier about YST's series of SSG modules, the suite of our SSG modular courses can also be stacked towards the free electives component of the M+L. So these courses offer an enhancement of skills in terms of digitalization, recording technology, pedagogy, contextual, and cultural studies. More details on this SSG funding will be presented later during the Q&A section. So as you can see, all these modules offered in our program encompasses a wide variety of music-related activities. So you are always actively encouraged to pursue the fields that are most relevant to your own future career paths. So for more details of these modules, you can visit our website. The candidature period for this 40 MC program takes between 2 and 8 semesters, depending on whether you are a full-time or part-time student. So for international applicants, please note that you must be accepted into an approved full-time course in Singapore to apply for a student's pass. And part-time courses and courses conducted in the evening on weekends are not eligible. So in this case, the part-time study are therefore only applicable to Singapore citizens, permanent residents, and Singapore-based international applicants with existing valid student or work pass. So please also note that the fastest mode of 2 semesters or a single year of full-time study is only applicable for students who have already passed the modules via NUS's L-Cube Lifelong Learning modules or CET 500 prior to admission to the M+L program. So this program's workload is designed in a way as we understand that your professions and careers are very diverse by nature. So some have varied schedules, while some have more regular work hours. So hence we believe in a more flexible approach in scheduling as we want to support your career building while keeping pace with the developments in the musical landscape. So students are expected to meet the minimum workload at all times. And in the case where exemptions from eligible modules are granted, you may complete the program in a shorter time frame. So there will be 2 intakes of candidates per year, once in August for the first semester of the new academic year and the second semester in January. The M+L is a self-funded program with a tuition fee of 43,000 Singapore dollars, excluding GST and SSG funding. So we would now like to give a brief comparison between our existing Master of Music MS program and M+L. So as compared to the 40 MC M+L program, which offers both full-time and part-time study, M+ is a 2-year full-time 80 MC MOE subsidized program. And M+ is targeted more for practicing musicians, composers, conductors who are interested to further their technical and musical skills. The present Master of Music program will continue to cater to individuals who would like to specialize more specifically in relation to performance, composition, and conducting, while the new program will prioritize music leadership and collaboration skills. The core content of M+ includes specialized individual lessons that emphasize more on the performative and artistic dimensions through recitals and ensemble performances in individual and small group settings, while M+L focuses on a more multifaceted project modules that provide flexibility to suit individual needs and professional practice. So this leads to a capstone project that is self-directed with a research thinking and potential interdisciplinary elements through individual, small group, and seminar settings. So the application timeline is as shown on the screen, with our applications closing on 31st of March. Therefore, shortlisted candidates will be contacted for an interview, which will be scheduled from the week of 11th April, and announcement of results will be on the week of 9th of May. So from May to July, we will work with international candidates to apply for their student pass. And then matriculation process will follow in the last week of July in preparation for the program commencing on the second week of August, which is the first semester of the new academic year. Our admission requirements are as shown on the slide. So all application forms should be completed with the NUS graduate admission systems, and applicants should have a Bachelor of Music or equivalent degree from an approved institution of higher education in music. Alternatively, applicants may be evaluated on their significant contributions and demonstrable professional accomplishments in music-related fields and on a case-by-case basis. Applicants whose native tongue or language of undergraduate instruction is not English must complete English tests. So please refer to our website for more details on the tests. All applications will be reviewed by a panel, and shortlisted candidates will be contacted for an interview thereafter and an audition or additional interview if required. So I would now like to introduce the MSL academic team. We have our Vice Dean of Academic Programs and Quality Enhancement, Prof. Ho Chi Kong, and as well as the Vice Dean of Career Orientation and Community Engagement, Prof. Chan Zin Law, whom you have met earlier, who is also the Academic Director of this MSL program. These are also my colleagues who are part of the MSL academic team. We have Francis and Kaiwan, whom you have met earlier, myself, Xiang Ning, Jing Jie, and Benedict. So ever since we have launched our program, we have received some queries, and some of it might be applicable to those who are here today, and this is why we would like to share it with you. And in the meantime, you can also scan the QR code for our FAQ document. So the first question that we have is, I've already taken YSC SSG modules. Can they count towards the MSL? So yes, it can be counted towards MSL. So please check our website for the list of available and eligible YSC SSG modules. And if you have already taken some of these modules under our CET program, you may also opt to transfer the credit should you be successfully enrolled in the program. So credit transfer is only applicable if the grade fulfills our MSL requirements, and the grade for the module will also be transferred. Next question is, can I read other NUS modules as electives? So no, only the list of YSC SSG modules listed on the website and graduate certificate modules are eligible. Can I take instrumental lessons in this program? Well, as mentioned earlier, our program is very self-directed. So this depends on your trajectory in this master's program, which would most likely be connected to your capstone project. So what is the schedule of the modules? The schedule has not been determined at the moment and depends on a few factors such as the number of students enrolled in the classes. But we have received feedback on what might be more convenient times for working professionals, and we would certainly take that into consideration. So can I switch between full-time and part-time studies? So to accommodate to the flexibility of this program, a conversion between full-time to part-time is allowed, but only once in the candidature period and has to be administered at least a month before the new semester begins. So please note that, of course, international applicants are unable to switch from full-time to part-time because you will need to be enrolled in a full-time study to have your student pass. Can I transfer credits from previous master's degree program study to MSL? So credit transfer and exemptions for NUS graduate programs will not be allowed for non-NUS modules that have been used towards another degree. So what fee funding support is available for Singaporeans? So the YSC SSG modules under the free electives component are eligible for the SSG subsidies and applicable only to Singapore citizens or PR. So all Singaporeans aged 25 and above can use their SkillsFuture credit from the government to pay for a wide range of approved skills-related courses relating to the MSL 8MC elective component. So for more information or additional support, you can also contact us for more information. So how many students will you accept into the program? Well, there is no set quota, but admission to this program is very highly competitive and depends on both the quality and quantity of the applicants involved, reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So in this moment, we would like to invite all of you on the floor to actually unmute your microphones or type your questions in the chat, and we will be answering your questions now. Please feel free to also introduce yourself in the chat and where you're from and what you're doing now as well. Someone asked, what will the course assessment be like? So this MSL degree will consist mostly of continuing assessment and will differ according to individual modules. And the capstone project will be a major assessment component that consists of continuing assessment and a final public presentation and defense or lecture recital. I would like to know if there is any scholarship available of this program. So this is a full self-funded program. So currently, there are only the SSG funding available for Singaporeans and no scholarship available from YST. However, you are of course encouraged to source for scholarship maybe from organizations from your own country. So the next question is, hi, Witty. Yeah, I'm interested to join the program. I've been in music industry for 10 plus years in various roles, but I have a degree in computer science. Would it be a barrier since I don't have a degree in music? Well, it would not be a barrier because we also really welcome applicants who have made significant contributions and also with various professional accomplishments in music-related fields. So we would very much welcome you to still apply. So we have a question from Tinza. May I know the English language requirement for overseas students whose bachelor was not taught in English? So you can refer to our website for more details, but we have the, if you take a test, let's say the IELTS test, the score would be 100 and above. And of course, we also have TOEFL tests and as well as our NUSS Diagnostic English test. So for more information, please refer to our website. So we have the next question. Could you share more details on the interview or audition part? So maybe for this question, could I invite Prof. Chan to share a little on the interview process? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. And of course, this is quite an important question. The interview and the audition are actually two separate things. So maybe let me address the interview. You know, obviously the program was designed for people who've reached a certain stage in their careers where they're looking to move forward, but potentially in a bigger or greater role than before. So for us to be able to assess the candidate, it's actually very important for us to get to know the candidate. And that's one of the reasons why we call for an interview. During the interview, we ask our candidates to share with us what are the things that are really important to them and what are their aspirations for themselves and for music in general. And depending on their background, potentially they might still be, for instance, often performing with an instrument. And as this is quite a customizable program, in such cases, we might require or request an audition. So that's basically the assessment process for our intake. And the interview normally takes between half an hour and 1 hour. And it's a very warm and friendly conversation. We set the tone so that you will feel comfortable to explain and to share with us the things that are important to you.
We have another question, a direct question. So may I ask the approximate class size of the program? So as explained earlier in the Q&A, we don't have a set quota, but of course the admission to this program is highly competitive and it depends on the quality and quantity of the applicants involved, reviewed in a case-by-case basis. So hope that answers your question, Brett. Thank you.
Maybe I can jump in also to answer, to add to that last question that was answered by Rachel. The class size is, of course, a very important consideration, which I'm sure is the reason why the question is being asked. Since this program has quite a lot to do with individual mentoring, so the likelihood of large classes is not going to be happen. These are likely to be fairly small classes, and we would consider, in fact, offering the same class again, so that we could keep class sizes to a particular ratio.
Hi everyone, I'm Ben. I'm part of the academic team at the MSL. there are several questions about the NUS Diagnostic English tests, as well as the content of the modules. I'll drop the links into the chat, and you may visit the websites, relevant websites, where you can find this information. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thanks, Mike, for your question. So Mike would like to find out how long it takes to complete the course if it is in part-time mode. So it takes around 5 to 8 semesters to finish the course if you are doing a part-time study. So if you're doing a part-time study, so here is the maximum workload and the number of MCs that you can take, and also the minimum workload to take if you're part-time. So depends on how many modular credits you take per semester will depend on how fast you finish it, either 5 or 8 semesters. So maybe to elaborate a little bit more on the modular credits. So a typical module, which is about 4 modular credits, actually requires around 10 hours of work a week, including lectures, tutorials, assignments, and independent or group study. Thank you very much, Kay, for your question. So Kay has asked, are there any internship opportunities? Could I direct this question to Prof. Chan, please?
Yes, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
And thank you for this very important question. The answer is yes. What might be interesting to discuss is how these internship opportunities might come about. There is actually a significant likelihood that the students, in our case, postgraduate students on this program, might bring internship and the industry along with them. So, for instance, it's quite possible that in some of the modules that one would take in this program, that the work involved in the module might connect quite directly with the industry, or possibly even your industry. There could be instances where case studies would mean that you use organizations that you're part of or you're familiar with as part of the case study. In that way, not only do you benefit from the mentoring and the skills in the project, but actually the organization might potentially benefit from what you have benefited from the skills and mentoring transfer. So that's definitely a part of our thinking. It's also important to to understand that the whole concept of internship is also shifting very, very quickly. And that's because the sort of employment situation is already shifting tremendously since the pandemic, and we think that it would shift even more. So, for example, for musicians, many musicians tell us that they are in freelancing careers. Freelancing careers are actually not that different to portfolio careers. The main difference is with portfolio careers, the musicians themselves have a big role in designing that career. And the point of mentioning this is that it is quite possible to be innovative and to intern for oneself, depending on how entrepreneurial one is. And we've made those provisions in the teaching aspects of our program as well.
Do students need to rent their houses or live in dormitories? So for our international students, for this graduate program, our international students usually rent their houses. So living in the dormitories is for our YSC undergraduate students, or as well as if you are research assistants in other faculties. Is the ranking of the school important when it comes to evaluation? Perhaps I could ask Prof. Chan again to respond to this question.
Sure.
Thank you
very much, Rachel. So the question is the ranking of the school important when it comes to the evaluation? And I'm interpreting this as the ranking of the school that the particular applicant is coming from. The answer is no. It is not important. What is most important is you, where you see yourself in the musical world, and how do you want to make the world a better place. These are the most important things.
Prof, could you also please share more about the graduate capstone project, which is to be taken in the final semester? We have a question about that from Melanie. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sure, Rachel, with pleasure. Thank you, Melanie, for the question. Actually, this is a really important question. What is the graduate capstone project about? It's simply put, the coming together of all the experiences gained during the program with all the knowledge and skills facilitated by the faculty and the staff of the conservatory, as well as all the self-directed learning that you would have done as part of the program. So the Graduate Capstone Project is not a project where we determine what a project is. The project is to be determined by you. When you are determining what project it might be, you would be considering the scale and the impact of such a project to communities important to you and the role that you can play within it. So we see the Graduate Capstone Project as an incredibly exciting part of this program. And we certainly envisage that the Graduate Capstone Project, when you are very much in it, will no longer feel like study, but will feel much more like passion. Sometimes we ask our students, have you ever thought of something that you've always wanted to do, but never really had the chance to do? That's not a bad way to begin to think about a Graduate Capstone Project, except that you would have a better idea of the skills and the know-how that you have collected and assimilated over the course of the program, and therefore you might be in a much better position to come up with what could be not just your capstone project, but potentially one of the projects of a lifetime. Yes, thank you, Sean. That's a very good question. Could you explain more about being a leader in a musical landscape and how the school can mold the applicant into becoming part of an ever-changing landscape? Actually, that's really interesting. Let me share some perspectives. First of all, I'm not entirely certain that the school can mold students into any particular shape or form. What the school will do is to facilitate, to help guide, to mentor its students so that they can find their own artistic identities. Our experience have shown that once students find their artistic identity, many things begin to fall into place, and skill sets that seemed irrelevant in the past suddenly become very valuable and part of a gear set that would allow these students to embark on trajectories where they potentially had not envisioned before. Being a leader is really about making a difference, because very often you need more than one person to make a difference. And so if you wanted to make a difference in your community or your world through music, I think it's very important to understand how people think and work. And we cover quite a lot of that in this module. Our thinking is that musicians who apply to this program are already successful musicians, as are those who are already in our program. Whilst of course all musicians work towards being ever better musicians, for these musicians who are interested in our program, they have other equally important priorities. These priorities could include how to make a difference, what are the skill sets required, and where do they find an application for their passion. And so, in summary, the landscape out there is pretty big. We stress on innovation because we believe that the career out there that's available for all of us is the career that hasn't been invented yet. So what we do is try and facilitate and guide our students on the pathway to finding that for themselves.
We have a question from Mark. Are all the co-hosts of this meeting going to be the faculty of this new master's program?
Thank you, Mark. The answer is yes and more. There is another question. I see. I'm a non-music major student. Does this program has hard requirement to GPA of the undergraduate course. I'm presuming that you mean whether there is a requirement in music. And if that's your question, the answer is not necessarily so. We have students in our program whose undergraduate training, or even a training before that, was not related to music. However, they seem to have somehow very successfully carved out careers for themselves in music. And we feel that people with that kind of potential could potentially also be viable applicants for this course.
We have a question from Yong Jie. If he can postpone, if the IELTS is not available by end of March, can he postpone submitting the language score? So perhaps you can check out the diagnostic English test that's offered by NUS. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. For Sean, I think Sean has another question for Prof, which is what students of the undergraduate version of this master's program have done that has changed the music industry?
Thank you very much for that question. That's a very good question. Obviously, it takes time for change to happen. The biggest change, of course, that has happened because of a disruption, and that disruption is COVID. COVID, as a disruptor, obviously has caused a lot of challenges for musicians as well as for many other people. But we believe that COVID, not just by being a disruptor, could also be the provider of opportunities. So it's interesting to understand that music has the great power to bring people together. Now, if we look at what has happened over the last 2 years, people have been kept apart. And so, I think it is quite important for musicians to be ready to embrace the opportunity and play their role in bringing people back together through their music. Yes, some of our students have actually done that, and potentially more visibly than one would expect. They have been performing, even during the pandemic period, at places like the Esplanade, in innovative programs that bring together different disciplines. The restriction in numbers have helped make them more innovative and have emboldened them to reproduce traditional style music, but in a different way. They have embraced technology, and through that they have found a completely new and largely untapped platform. Now, are these platforms competitive? Yes, of course they are. But however, they are already there. And I think part of the reason why they're there is because we had shared with them and encouraged them to think differently. For this particular master's program, we are targeting different type of applicant. This program targets those who have looked back in their career and realized that there's a lot more mileage to be had from what they've assessed as their potential after many years in the profession. And they're looking for ways to fulfill that potential. These are the people we would really like to help. And so, yes, the undergraduates are already doing it, but on the other hand, we feel that many of the applicants to this program are, in many ways, the people that they already look up to. But in relation to professional development can take place at any juncture of the career. And that's also one of the reasons why it was so important to us to make this career with a work-study balance. And hence, it was mainly designed with the option of a part-time study regime. So I hope that answers your question. It's a slightly roundabout way, but all of these things are quite connected. It's all part of the ecosystem. Thank you. Is composing taught? Now, that's a very good question. This is the reason why we shared a comparison between the two master's programs that we offer, the traditional masters and the masters of music leadership. Composition is taught in the traditional masters. However, in the Masters of Music Leadership, we envisage that we would have composers as well. Composers will get support in terms of mentoring and other ways so that they can fulfill their potential beyond composing. But obviously, the motivations behind what they do is likely to be composition based. So in short, no, composition is not taught as a major because the major is in leadership, musical leadership. However, it's likely that composing can be weaved into it in one way or another through the various project modules if that is what you so wish. May I ask if there are any international collaborative elements in this program, and what kind of resources can YST afford to its students during the courses? That's a very good question as well. We have not embedded international courses in our program. There are a number of reasons for this. But the main reason was that this program was designed actually just around the period that the pandemic began. Travel wasn't possible anyhow. And so we were thinking that for many people, they would prefer actually not to travel. However, there is also another part of this which is also worthy of consideration because this is a part-time program. We actually realized that our students travel for their work anyhow because they do professional work both in and out of the country. And so should they choose to connect some of those professional work with some of their studies here, we would certainly be very interested to help them.
So if there's no questions, we would like to thank you all for joining us today. And if you go back and you have a question, please feel free to email us at the email contact here on the screen, or visit our website for more information. And we hope to see you at our program and together spearhead innovative changes, inspire the younger generation, advocate for the importance of arts in society, and be at the forefront in building one's own artistic identity and leadership potential. So with this, we thank you for attending our info session today. Thank you to all our presenters, Prof. Chan, Kai Wen, Francis, and Abigail, as well as the MSL Academic team, the Scale team, and all of you who are here today. So we look forward to seeing you and have a good night. Thank you.